All right, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Brogan, and today I am with KB.
Hello.
Well, thank you for joining us again on the stream. Last stream went down a treat. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. So in today's stream, if you don't know, we are going to be talking about Bitcoin. Now, I will preface this though, we have called it the OK Show because we might be a bit lenient with this. We don't know how long we're going to spend talking about Bitcoin, but we should go over some charts, long term, short term, and just kind of have a good discussion, whether it's with you guys or just between ourselves, about Bitcoin and how we see it going in the future, and obviously as of current. So hopefully you guys have been looking forward to this. I know Kishan especially was looking forward to this, so if Kishan, I say a shout to you. I will go over some percentages though as well before, just to see the general market rundown, because again it is Friday. Normally do my Friday streams, Friday and Monday streams, so I will do that as of normal. It'll be me looking at the shorter term. Me and KB will be discussing it as we go along, and then it'll kind of go to KB and we'll go back and forth like that. So if by chance we don't fill the entire stream with just Bitcoin, and you guys do have a coin you want us to cover, hopefully within the top three, preferably, because that's where we actually have TA. So if you want to see Ethereum or Solana, we're kind of between the two. If you guys do want to see something in particular, do put it in the comments. I would appreciate that. And if you're here, say hello. And that's pretty much it. Shout out to you all. I don't want to dilly-dally because we might spend quite a while doing this. So I'm going to some percentages, have a little read of the markets, and then we can get onto the charts. So 84K for Bitcoin. Now, obviously, we did do a stream this morning and did look at the Bitcoin. I did look at the Bitcoin price, and it was around 85. And I had two prices. It was 85-ish K, somewhere within that range, 85.5. I can't remember exactly what it was. It had that low point. If you guys saw that stream, you would have saw that support point. I had one lower at 83.1. That's kind of going to be my, if you did watch the stream this morning, my general consensus of the price is going to be decently similar to what I already talked about this morning, but again, I'll go over it and give a bit more detail on it. But anyway, 84K right now for Bitcoin, 3.4% down 24 hours. So again, we're falling quite a bit on the 24 hour. Now, we do have data today. I actually don't know if it's come out. I think it has. I don't know what the result was, but looking at the price, I'd assume, the expectant hasn't gone, too well, if you will. So 84K right now, 1,881 for Ethereum. We are at some really low points, and I will, give a little spoiler to what I'm going to say in today's stream, but I do think we're at the lows for the majority, across the board pretty much for me. So obviously, again, we'll go into more detail when we do go onto the charts. Solana 129, I think, again, that's pretty much equilibrium. Well, for me anyway, if you've seen my Solana charts over the past however many streams I've looked at it, you will have seen my equilibrium for Solana. You will have seen that it's, multiple times over, been at 129-ish area for that equilibrium support. So again, we're pretty much just at our low points. Again, obviously seeing a more considerable low than we've seen in quite a while. So yeah, not a very good scenario, but again, we will discuss it when we get onto the charts. Quickly looking over at some 24-hour winners, just to see what's going on. I don't really look at this too much, but Kronos is up. Again, we are avid Crow coverers on the Crypto Warehouse channel and are avidly involved in the community, so shout out to Crow. Again, I don't really want to look at this too much. I don't really look at percentages too much because, again, this is a Bitcoin show pretty much. So, like I said in the intro, I'll be going first on the charts and just having a quick look at my ranges and whatnot, and then KB will go next, covering the same chart, but, in his process. So, let me move straight onto that quickly. And bring up my charts. So this is it's slightly messy, I will admit, but we will go through it slowly. So if you remember these prices I had here, I still have them up as I had it on the stream this morning, and you can see my green areas, my red areas, whatnot. So again, I will quickly go over what I covered this morning, because the majority of you guys here are probably from that stream as well, so you guys probably won't want to hear it again. But for those of you who weren't on the morning stream, I can actually cover it. So my original TA was this kind of this trend, whatever, this movement. This was another support point. I think I'm on a different range here, but this was basically the support point. And we had this low here, 85.281. So that was the rough area, 85.5-ish area. And that was kind of where we were sitting live on the stream. It was about 11-ish a.m. Sitting at this area exactly. So I had that area, and then I had one lower, which was 83.270. I also have 83.1. That is a low on a lower range. I believe it's which range was it again? I think it was this one. If I quickly draw it up. I said it here. I wrote it down. This is one of the lows as well, just to kind of have that there as a not confluence per se, but just an additional price point within this area in between 83.3 and 83.1. So I do have support there. Again, that was my second area. So not only did we have 85.3, we had that support. And what I was saying on the stream was, I believe this would be a good support point. Now, again, if I go to the higher range upwards, I think it's the higher range upwards, the one upwards, if I go to it, I think we have the equilibrium here to show. If I wait for it to load quickly, there we go. So we have this equilibrium we've been in. Again, if you can call your minds back to maybe my last stream where I did cover this, I don't want to bring it up because I'm going over this quite quickly. Before I go on to actual TA for the future of Bitcoin. But anyway, we have this equilibrium point we've kind of come into. I will bring it up. I believe it's this time frame. Let me just go to the weekly. I think it's the weekly. Yeah, here we go. So we can see this is the equilibrium, and we've been in this area, and we've kind of come up, hit into this area, and then we've come down and found support. Now, I have covered this as it's been going on, during streams, start of March, end of February time, when we were looking at this range, not only between 88.5 and this range, but also the outer rim of it at 93k and 83. And my main, what I was mainly talking about, which is obviously happening, is us coming towards 88, 90k, and then retracing back towards the inner equilibrium support, and then having our process. I think I talked about it last stream, or last TA stream, having the process of coming into the midpoint and then bouncing off the outer rim of it at about 83 to 9, this area here, and then coming back upwards into it and coming upwards. So realistically, and this is obviously something very important, which I do quite often in my streams, is go on the wider timeframes and talk about the price action on these wider timeframes, because sometimes if you're on the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and you're looking at the price actions as it's happening, you might think it's quite daunting or it's quite drastic. But sometimes you can look at these higher timeframes and realize there is something going on here on these higher timeframes which might make sense. If you can apply it, might make sense to why the charts are doing something in particular. And in my case, in my personal opinion, again, the majority of this stream, or pretty much all this stream, is going to be personal opinion. Make sure you trade based on your own volition and your own methodology. But anyway, obviously, on my opinion, this is the outer rim of the equilibrium at 83.2. So realistically, this is kind of stuff I've already said on previous streams, in the idea that we could have this movement which goes towards 88, 90k in this kind of range here, comes back down to support back here, and then moves back upwards. So again, I don't think we should be worried. And I think one of the consensus could be is this is a drastic fall down, everyone's shorting, and everyone's going to get stopped out and kind of caught in this trap. So this kind of gives that ideology where, okay, we're coming down fast, but we don't have that much room left, about 83.3, as I've already marked up, in terms of having a bounce from here and then coming back upwards. So again, if you're worrying, I personally don't think we're seeing much lower than where we are right now. Within 84, 83k. I really don't think we'll see much lower. I don't think. Again, I hope we don't, because it really wouldn't be a good thing if we did. Let me go back to the lower range quickly. There we go. So again, like I was saying, it really wouldn't be a good thing if we were to see these lows, because then we're surpassing some of our previous lows. We're not doing higher highs, higher lows. We're not going to be in a proper bull trend, and then we're going to be in a tougher situation than we would be. But again, like I said, I really don't think we're going to see much lower than where we are right now. I think we're going to see, again, like I said, a bounce at about 83.2, as I've shown with the equilibrium, and the 83.1 range in this kind of area, where we have the low of the lower range. We have quite a few prices which line up with this range. And again, like I said, personal opinion, I don't think we're going to see, another bounce back towards some of these prices at 81. I really don't think we're going to see much lower than that. And I do think there's quite a lot of people worrying and going, oh my God, we have come from, 86.8 area all the way down to 84. We've had a massive fall. Now, we did have this range. I think Mike had this drawn as well, in terms of having this kind of bull flag, which kind of brought up. And as we were talking about it live, it was going perfectly fine. It was like, we're just bouncing off this line, and then we didn't. So then we kind of came down into this range. Now, the good thing is, I will say this about us coming into this range, is that we haven't hit off the 84.5 mark. Now, why this is important for me personally is the purple line. This is the expansion line of this range. So being in the range in between 85, I believe that's 85.3, and then coming up all the way to 91.8. This is kind of the trading range you have, where you have this low support point, resistance at 91.8, and then the equilibrium where you also have resistance or support depending on what side you're on. Now, the method you the price has to take in order to change being in this range and move one lower, in this case being between 85-ish and 78k, would be bouncing off this line here at 84.5. Now, we do have a wick towards it here, which is decently close to having this confirmed. Now, if we go to the lower time frames, we might be able to see this wick be a bounce off it. We haven't had that kind of 4-hour, turnaround, maybe 1-hour turnaround coming back to use it as resistance. So that is something I would watch out for Bitcoin. But we do have this this candle which sits in between the fair value gap range, which forms this kind of gap here, which we could potentially fill to have resistance. So again, I don't think we're out of the mud, because again, we're still in the mud. We're falling deeper into the mud. It's not like we've stopped. So although I'm trying to be positive, I still do think we have this potential move down for Bitcoin. But again, I don't think we're going to see much lower than where we're potentially going to at about 83.1. Again, we might have a reflection or a reversal from 84.7, where we come into this area, bouncing off 84.5 for the kind of purple line. Confirm that we're now coming into a lower range, and finding resistance here. We could still have that, so we might have a bit more negativity. I don't think we're going to come right back up towards 86k immediately within today or tomorrow. I still think we're going to have our due time in this area we're in currently before we see that moving upwards. But on the long term, as we resolve, I do think we will eventually get back to these points and continue onwards. So again, I think this is a momentary fall, and yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this, apart from if I was to give a path tool movement. And again, the last time I did this, it didn't happen, obviously, if you might see there from the morning stream. I would have to say it would come into this range. I could expect some resistance within this area, about 84.5 area. We could have, it could be a double bottom, something like this. Again, I don't have anything. I mean, again, we do maybe have support 82.5 coming towards 82.4 area down here in this equilibrium. There is potential for that. Maybe we could wick there and find support at this 83.2 area. Because again, remember, this 83.2 area is the wider range equilibrium. So this is happening on the higher time frames. So what this means, in theory, is that we might not potentially have the complete solid wick to this 83.2 area, and we could potentially see lower than it, but we print above it. On the 4 hour, we stay above it, but we can wick down. So just to bear that in mind, we do have this 82.6 area where we have this equilibrium here. Yeah, as I see it, we could have this kind of double bottom scenario. I think lows to see around here in this range. Also, to bear in mind, before I finish it and hand it over to KB, the last thing I will look at is this trend line we have. It's not very good. It just kind of matched up these two lows, but it potentially could hold this rough area between 83k, which holds this, this trend line as we're coming down. So there's a few things we could potentially bounce off and have and use as support on our way down for Bitcoin. So again, I think we do still come down more from where we are, but I do think the stop is very near for it, and I do think once we consolidate down here and confirm that we've had a reversal and we've finished our movement downwards, I do think we will have a nice, hopefully speedy recovery for Bitcoin back up towards its 87k areas. So like I said, other than that, I don't really have much else to say on the shorter term for Bitcoin. So what I will do is transfer over, if I unhide, okay, oh, my camera's really laggy, I don't know why, sorry about that. What I will do is show KB's chart there and hand it over to KB. So if you want to do your chart, I have it ready for you.
Yep, is it on the screen?
Yeah, yep, it's all working.
All right, lovely. I think you said 83.2 you was looking at, wasn't you?
Yeah, 83.2, 83.1, equilibrium point. Well, the closest one I have to where we are is about 83 to 83.1. But I do have something at around 82, 82.2, 82.6 equilibrium. But that could be maybe a wick, in my personal opinion, like a wick or a very short visit down there. But anyway, yeah, I do.
Yeah, was it? No, that would it would match up obviously with this liquidity gap here. Obviously, aggregate the orders, and then we could see a continuation up. But what I'm seeing at the moment, obviously from my point of view, from my perspective, is we're just sitting on daily support resistance at the moment. Obviously, we've down tested the LGC, the daily LGC high, closed above the weekly LGC high, which obviously is bullish in my perspective. I think I tweeted out on posted in the Telegram that I was looking for a retest around this area.
Right.
Purposely because we had the weekly LGC high, and then we put in this LGC through here, which obviously is then the origin candle of this move up for this expansion. We came down, rebalanced into the EQ, and then pushed back up. Obviously, the structure is still intact in my view. We're still making high lows, high highs.
I agree.
Once we had closed through this, I think I mentioned last time in 2 weeks ago when we was trading around here, around 77 level. I said that obviously we've had all this sell side pressure pushing us all the way down. That if we did start to get a close above this LGC around 86k, that would in the method that I use, that would signal a change in flow. And obviously we did get then the pullback, the rebalance. All we did then was just rebalance it into this LGC, did these two lows into the EQ, and continued on. And obviously I think I also mentioned last time, obviously I'm not saying you have to follow everything I say, but obviously you can see that it's higher lows, higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low. But you can also gauge the market on where it's going purely just by the LGCs. Like that's how I gauge the direction. So we've got LGC, and then obviously you've got another LGC through there. So you can see the market was pushing up. The recent move today did not sort of catch me off guard, because I was expecting, obviously, if you go to the daily, you can see that once we put in this liquidity gap reversal on the 11th of March, we've come up, touched resistance. We had a candle close through then, but the next day just took out the high, closed back under. Resistance, popped back through, used it as support, formed a swing, pushed back up. So if we can close the daily above this SR, then
and what price is that? Sorry, the stream, the numbers are quite small just for the way it's the ratio of it. So even if you could put like a marker on it. Oh yeah, that works as well. If you just like type it or something.
2 seconds. Or
oh yeah, you can make them bigger, can't you? Yeah.
Where it is.
Just, I don't know if it's. I mean, I think if you because for me the view of the stream is quite small, so I don't know if people watching can see the numbers, nicely. That should be pretty good. I can see it from here.
A bit bigger now.
Perfect, thank you.
Right, yeah, the SR comes in at 84, just around $84,030. So I'm actually, obviously, we had to push up into this external range EQ. Probably the best way I could probably explain it is because I kept on saying in the Telegram that I'm trading this as a range. So I'll probably just quickly explain, because when people say ranges, they normally think of just a standard like range, so forth.
Right, yeah, so high and low, yeah.
Low to high, yeah. Whereas I'm basically just using this as we've got this swing here. Let me just mark out the EQ so you can see. Got this swing high down to this swing low, and if I make that a bit brighter. Obviously, this is the external range, and then we basically came up when I was speaking to you last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Came into continued down, and then took out this swing low. So then, not only is this here an external range, but then you've also got I'm trading this as an internal range.
Right. Okay.
So price obviously once we hit that LGC high, came up, rebalanced back into the external range EQ. That's why I still think we are in for. Obviously, we've got the origin of expansion there. We've formed a swing, LGC through, back straight back down. So I'm expecting. I'm still leaning bullish. And obviously, if we obviously then say that's the range high, move then, and obviously you can mark that as a range low, I suppose, but like where we've took out this swing and then came down, obviously you can mark out both. So the way I'm still trading it at the moment is still inside this range. We're still basically trying. If you were to get the EQ of this range, we have just fallen below it, but it's also confluent with the LGC low.
Right. Yeah, I can see
that. So at the moment, we've still put in a higher low if we can hold this low at the moment, and if we can hold this low and close the next candle above SR, but then we've obviously got a potential swing form back in. I'm still leaning for higher prices. Obviously, if you have market order bubbles, you can see that once we had the weekly open, we pushed up into the EQ. We've got liquidity all above here. Obviously, Monday's high, all these highs that have been untagged, and then we've obviously, I think everyone obviously has the was looking at this as a bear flag, or a bull flag, or whichever one you prefer. Obviously, I don't tend to use chart patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I point them out, but I don't really use them personally.
No, I have nothing against them. Obviously, they can work brilliantly, and to give you extra added confluence. But obviously, just the way I trade, obviously, even if you were to mark, obviously, I can give you 1,000 reasons why I'm still bullish until we break a certain level.
Yeah,
if we start breaking below 81, then okay, I would see it as there's no more liquidity in these runs. We filled all these liquidity gaps. The only remaining one now is here. So, whether or not we come down and fill that, or this is just a fake out and we continue up, will be decided in the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
But I'm still being bullish. I still think this is potentially a fake out, and we're just gonna basically clear out all these shorts that have been building up since around 85k.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Like long term, I don't think there's much to worry about. I mean, if we start making lower lows, then yeah, but I'm not that concerned at the moment. I don't see reason to start selling or start shorting in my view.
No, I completely agree. Yeah,
there's a lot of... Sorry, go on.
No. I was gonna say, I mean, I one of the lows I was pointing at was I think it was around 83, 150, which just sits slightly above or slightly below the 83, 270. I think the exact price is 83, 270 for my line. I was just going to agree with the idea that we still have potential to do one of these, do a higher low, and not still haven't broken yet. I was just agreeing with what you're saying.
And obviously, I've been in there's a fair few people in a couple of groups that I'm in, and obviously they're all over YouTube as well, talking about a death cross and stuff like that.
Oh,
obviously,
yeah.
Use what you can, if you can use it in your edge, use it. But we've had many of them before, and it just stagnates price. We don't necessarily have a massive dump. So for those who are thinking, there's an incoming death cross, I'm not even sure if it's crossed already, but until we start breaking structure, I don't believe there's nothing to worry about. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think it's the same as Golden Cross. I believe it's based on 2 moving averages, right? I don't know the exact dates though, or the stack, the how many day moving averages. I believe it's 2 moving averages, right? It's a cross of those moving averages. I believe you have to print into them and then kind of bounce into them and then continue onwards. I actually don't. I don't really know. Okay, I don't use them, but I believe I think Mike's talked about him to me and maybe on streams as well. I believe there's some sort of process you have to follow. I don't know if anyone in the chat follows them as well. KB, I don't know if you know as well. Is there a process you have to follow with printing into them? I don't know if Mike's here on the chat as well. I swear you have to do something with them. You know what?
I'm not.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I've never used EMAs. Well, I've used EMAs, but I've never used them based it's hit this certain EMA, so I'm going to take a trade. I'll just use it as again extra confluence, because there are some people that can use EMAs, and obviously, you could have seen the cross here shorted and so forth. But
right,
it could just be for a small move. Whereas, I currently think that in the macro term, we're going to see very higher prices, whether or not that's coming into this weekend or maybe next week. But okay. So I've just brought one up quickly. I've brought up a golden cross indicator thing on my chart.
just to see really quickly. I'm going to shimmy to my chart really quickly just to bring it up. So, okay, so this one, I think I just picked a random one. I don't really know fully. It just marks out Golden Cross and Death Cross. So I believe the Death Cross is the bad one. Obviously makes sense, Death. And then Golden Cross is the good one. So it's putting a Golden Cross. I don't know if this is incorrect or what. I know everyone was talking about Death Crosses. You know what? Let me bring two up, because I don't actually know if that's right. Let me quickly bring this one up. Okay, it's a Golden Cross. So I believe Golden Cross is the good one, right? Right? Is that not?
I believe so.
Yeah, so apparently we're doing a Golden Cross. So I would imagine that would be a bullish thing. But I think you have to... I don't know if Mike's listening and in the chat. I think you have to print either like within them. You have to like kind of like sweep them or something. I really don't know. But this could be that. What my main point is, I know I'm waffling a bit. My main point about this, I'm trying to finalize it, is that I think you have to come into them or do something in particular with where the Golden Cross is, or maybe below it before you proceed it. So I don't know if anyone can fact check me on that, but this could be that movement with this low. But again, like I said, I do not know fully particular. But yeah, anyway, I think there's tons of people. I think Ben Cowan talks about it as well with the Golden Cross and Death Cross. I think I have obviously tried things with moving averages, and to some extent they work and don't work. But anything, I can't. The majority of strategies and things to analyze the price. Again, it's if you can use them in your own method and it works, there's no stopping you. There's no point in me saying I hate this if it works for you. But at the same time, when it's something lagging like that, and it doesn't really take into account what's going on outside. And obviously, I think with every method anybody uses, I think there's a occasional sense of once in a while checking the news just to make sure nothing actually really big's happening. And I think in this case, today is definitely a very important day for data. I think obviously a very big the core PCE data came out. I think it's already come out. Obviously, I'd assume maybe it was like a point less or something. I don't know what the outcome of it was. But in days like this, when there's something decently big happening external from the price action, whether it have a Golden Cross or whatever, it could just be the factor that something has happened and it's caused the price to come down. And now we're just going to have to look at areas where we could stop at and areas where we can reverse. So, but anyway, yeah, if you trade Golden Crosses and you enjoy them, please do let me in the chat. I think Mike has said something in the chat. Okay, never mind. It was talking about Kishan. I'll probably read the chat actually before we move on to long term. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, KB. I still think we're in solid movements in the charts to not, we haven't flipped anything, we haven't gone below anything, which I think is very important, and obviously you think is very important. I still think we have potential to go right back up from where we are. So if you, my personal opinion, again, no structural advice, and obviously KB, what you were saying as well, I still think we are okay. Even though we have come down quite far, I still think we're okay for Bitcoin. Like I said, don't worry about in terms of the future for Bitcoin. In terms of localized future, I don't think we should worry at all. I'm pretty happy with obviously I'm not happy. I wouldn't want us to come down, but I'm happy with, in theory, from what we're doing right now. If we're not going to do a level low or break anything in particular, I still think we're in a good situation.
It still looks good.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just bringing the chat up. I'm gonna read the chat quickly, just if there's any questions or whatever, and then I can go on to some larger time frame. Just have a look quick nosy. Again, I see it on my streams as well. I don't really look at the higher time frame, too often on my streams, because again, it's just something to occasionally look at. So just gonna talk about it. Just to have a little quick nosy. But I'll say hello to Mags. Shout out to you being here. Kishan's well here. Kishan, you're late as always. Surprised for Kishan actually, but he's always the first one in the chat. But anyway, shout out to you guys. He says if it hits 79k, I think serious up to 100k. I mean, I hope so. I don't even think we'll see 79k. I really don't think we'll see 79k. And even if we do see, because again, if we look at the 4 hour, if we kind of look at what we have right here, we do have a in theory, obviously this is something which I don't really often look at, but we do technically have. We do have this bear flag going on. Now, I don't know the exact points to draw this from, but we do technically have a bear flag here, which we're starting to come below. So, I don't know if this would be, again, this is a bit of a higher time frame thing as well. It really isn't a good thing. But I think if we were to come to 79k, I think there's a lot more worry for me to go to 79k rather than when we're going now at 83. It will currently at 83.8, obviously coming down to maybe towards 83.2, 83, 82.8, whatever it's going to be. I don't know if if we were to visit 79k, I don't know if it'd be a straight line back upwards or seriously right back up to 100k. I think there would be a bit more difficulty in that regard.
I believe that if we start going down to 79k, then I think then 72k. Probably
completely.
Low, there's no other reason for it.
Exactly, 100%. I think if we start to break this movement we're having, because again, we are coming from a position. We're coming from 76k, 76.6. We're coming from the most negative position we've seen in a long time, and that was kind of the reversal for us. That was kind of okay coming, but we were having a bit of a trend upwards. We came below all those lows, and then we started to come upwards in an uptrend. And this was supposed to be, the trend which brought us back to where we need to be. And obviously, if we start to slow down, and then obviously, as we're talking about, reach 79k, I really don't think it's going to be good for us. I don't think we'll see 100k personally from that. Obviously, KB, I think you also agree with not seeing 100k straight away with that.
We'd go down lower. If we come down to 79k, then I think then 72k would probably be on.
Yeah.
And then from then we should get a bounce from there. But yeah, I'm still happy with the structure at the moment until we start breaking below 81. Then I'll start thinking maybe possibly 79, maybe lower. But at the moment, we're just, again, this could potentially form a 4-hour swing. We could by tomorrow or by the Monday we could be back up towards 88, 85.
Completely.
So
I mean, majority of the time, in my opinion anyway, majority of the time we have these sorts of movements where there's not really great structure to them. Obviously on the lower time frames there might be structure to most things, but if you look at the 1 hour, the 4 hour, there's not really that much structure to the movement downwards, in terms of there being a concise movement upward, movement downwards, true trend line, if you will, or a true trend downwards. It's kind of been a predominantly straight-ish diagonal line downwards. So when I look at these sorts of lines or when I look at these sorts of movements, my normal opinion when I look at them is, okay, well, if we come down this fast, we can normally just recover quite easily. And like you were saying with maybe even seeing, was it by tomorrow you said, within tomorrow seeing back up to where we were?
Well, by the week, we could have a weekend rally. I'm not 100% how prices acted at the moment, whether or not we'll see that rally. But obviously, I reckon by the start of next week, as long as we can hold this low and keep the structure intact, then we should be good for high prices.
Yeah, I agree. I think the movement, although I said that if we see some sort of lows, we could see a bit more resistance and a bit more maybe sideways-ish movement within the price, and then moving back upwards. But either way, that won't. Looking on the 4 hour chart, it's not like I'm looking on daily, the weekly. It will play out by the time we hit Monday. So yeah, I completely agree. I don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll stay down here for like a whole week. I think this is really going to be a small movement, and if it is to be a scenario where we are finessing the shorters, then it will have to be a quite quick movement back upwards to see above those highs. But again, 79k, if we go below that, I don't think it's 100k straight away personally. But let me quickly skim through the last bit of the chat, then we can go through some longer term stuff. Mags, good information. Good to know what these two think about what's happening at the moment. Good to hear. Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I think it's because obviously I know when I do my streams, obviously KB, you come to and talk in the chat, and normally when there's certain important prices, 9 times out of 10 we're pretty much saying roughly the same price, whether it be out by a tiny bit or nearly spot on. There's normally something converging between our prices. So I before we started the stream, I was kind of. Even when we were kind of thinking of the idea of doing a stream, I knew this would hopefully be a good stream and a good idea to do, because I do think there's not that many big people out there who get other people on their streams. Obviously, there are people who collaborate. I'm not saying that, but a stream where two different people doing two different methods of looking at the charts can talk about the chart at the same time. I think, this gives a good, scope onto a situation like this, for example, where, if there's two completely not, polar strategies, but, strategies which don't, correlate in terms of their methods, but still give similar results, I think is pretty important. And no one really does this. So again, thank you, KB, for coming on the stream. Do appreciate you being here and taking part.
Don't worry about it. That's fine.
I read through it. I think that is it for questions. So I will actually move on now to high time frame. Now, I will try not to spend too much time doing this because I do yap quite a bit. I'm just going to go on the weekly-ish, monthly, just have a quick glance at the bigger ranges and if you've been, if you guys watching have been in my streams, previously and have been in a stream where I have looked at this, I will probably most likely say the exact same thing I've already said. But we'll just give a quick overview on what I think in the long term for Bitcoin. Let me just bring up the actual chart. Okay, here we go. Let me hide this and get my actual ranges up. Okay, so yeah, I kind of looked at this range previously. This is on a different chart now where I have my actual lines and stuff. So this is weekly on one of the bigger ranges. I have looked at this chart before, and I did look at it when we were looking at the 4 hour and looking on a bit of a lower time frame. I did show this kind of equilibrium coming back into this. I talked about the midpoint being about 88k and where we're bouncing from, and then the idea that we were kind of coming back towards. Obviously, this was on the this range here, which had this support at this line. Obviously, this one had the support here. Obviously, the worst case would be coming back down towards 72.5k. This is kind of the same idea of if we were to come below these lows and actually would in turn come below 83.2-ish area for this print on the weekly. Well, like we were saying in terms of KBU saying from 72k, if we were to see and actually break structure and come all the way down and start to see more lows, again, a bit more confidence there on my half as well. Being about, for me anyway, 72.6-ish would be this line here for the outer rim of the equilibrium as support. Again, I don't want to see that. I want to see a weekly print at around 83.265, which obviously isn't out of the realm of possibility. Again, if we recover over the weekend and see a Sunday to Monday print within where we are right now, that is still a good sign in my books. And again, I think there's quite a bit for us to have good signs. I think we're in a good position. We could go lower. We could see a wick lower. But again, as long as we're printing in our structure and we're still printing at support point 83.2, 83.1 area where we are now, or nearly where we are now, I'm still very happy. And again, this is meant to be long term. I'm not going to talk about. Not talk about short term. I need to keep this concise. So yeah, anyway, I've looked at this. I normally look at the really high one. My last TA was or my last time I drew this. I think I drew this before the start of 2025. This was my rough guesstimate for what I could see happening coming into 2025 and onwards. And you know what? It started off absolutely strong. I think I redrew this lately, or not lately. As of late, I redrew this to kind of match up more with what's going on, which call it cheating, whatever. But this is kind of the general movement I have over the grand scheme of things. Now, if you were to talk to Mike, and maybe KB, obviously, I'm very, very interested to see what you think on the longer term. But I know Mike, in particular, is a lot more negative than I am. Although I will keep my head held high and keep on talking about these areas about 106, 118k. But anyway, yeah, this was my line I had drawn. Again, it was kind of refactored to match up with the price action and kind of give a normal kind of look as to what we're doing. And again, I have talked about times we've been in equilibrium previously where we have had a sort of structure where we've bounced off one rim and then found support within the equilibrium and then had a higher high, coming above equilibrium. So this was kind of mapping out this movement. It could have a scenario where we bounce off 110k and then find support at 94k. This isn't the exact thing because again, it's hard to predict months and months in the future when it comes to Bitcoin or whatever. So anyway, this was my line. This is kind of my main area, and this line here is on this range, which is the high of this range, which we have obviously looked at previously and have used. Now this range is still a good range, and again, this is still good. No, not a bad sign. This is obviously us, in the current situation right now, us trying to get back up above equilibrium and find support here. We were finding support very nicely. Again, we were kind of crabbing a bit kind of having this kind of movement going on. Obviously, we fell below equilibrium. This was obviously kind of like a double high scenario thing going on, which brought us down a bit towards equilibrium. But as we saw, we're in a really good scenario. And again, I had this drawn from ages ago. I mean, these ranges are, the way you draw these are very set in stone. You know, it's not like it's based off price action. It's based on systematic, you know, numbers which draw these lines. So I had this, you know, this range even before January time, and I was talking about 116, 118k. Obviously, I think I streamed, I think it was December time, and I did a nearly designated stream to what I think is going to happen in 2025. Whether that, you know, whether most of that be right or wrong, I'll have to go back and check. But I remember talking very specifically about 118k. We also have 125k on some lines as well. About 125 here. We also had 104 here. Now again, this is equilibrium. This is the wider range for the equilibrium, and then obviously the next line up for me was 125k. So I remember KB. I remember we looked at the Elliott wave not that long ago, which also kind of talked about 125k. But yes, I will look at this range now. I'll finish it up in maybe 2 minutes after I talk about this wider range, and then I'll hand it over to KB. So this one was a extremely wide range. Now this was kind of a bit of a theoretical, because I don't really see anyone using the ranges like this, but I thought I would try it. And I had this drawn. I have the reasoning for this. This was kind of us having our it kind of gave ranges for the high of low of the entire, obviously, movement. This is the weekly. I think I looked at this on the monthly as well, but this kind of gave highs and lows, not only for equilibriums and highs and lows, but for each and every line in this trend or range even going upwards, which obviously hits 90,340, which is one of the equilibriums I've talked about quite often. And then the next one was 150k, and this one was either two ways. It was either you found resistance at it, or you came a bit above it. And again, if you go to the low ranges, you'll see equilibriums at these ranges and whatnot. Obviously on this one, you'll see equilibriums. But anyway, either you found resistance and then came down, or you flipped them and tried to find support. But the general idea with these was just general prices on the way up. And obviously this one was 90,340, which you know, is I think is a very important price. Again, this is one of the equilibriums. I have talked about, I think one of my prices before we had this dump, we hit 88.3, 88.5k. You know, was one of our highs for Bitcoin. Mine was going to be 90,340. We didn't quite get that though. But this one was this really wide range. We've formed this gap. I think this is on the monthly even. I'll show this quickly. This will be my last thing before I move on to KB. I'll just give my prices quickly. Obviously, it had this gap, and then we filled it, or we touched into the midpoint, and then we pumped from there. And obviously, we tried to hold 90,000, then we flipped it, and obviously now we're trying to come up. So this one kind of maps out the next high being about 154k. So I think, you know, for me, that is one of the very highs we'll see. Again, I've got a list of different ones. We've got 116-ish K, we have 125k, and then 154k. I know there's a lot of prices there, but if I had to say a really max price for where we could even potentially see, it would be 154k. So that's what this maps out, in my opinion. But to finalize, like I said, to kind of stop talking it, basically, my last thing I would say would be, for me, long term, my next price for one of the highs I could definitely, or not definitely see, obviously, but I could definitely see us having a high at would be about 118k, because obviously that's the top of the range, and then probably coming back to find support either at this range or one of the wider ranges about 101k, where we've already seen resistance before. So yeah, for me, long term, I think I have 118, 116k at this resistance point here for Bitcoin. So again, personal opinion, do not take that with professional, analysis, whatever. But I will move the chart back to KB if you want to take it away and give us some longer term predictions, in your opinion.
In my longer term predictions, I just trade levels. I do think that 120k, like you said, around 118, 120k will be sort of a psychological level where there will be some reaction around that level. But again, once we start trading above all-time high, again, 150, 140, 150k, I could see that as being a major price target, for price to trend towards. But again, I don't know. Obviously, you've got the swing on a weekly, so therefore, I'm quite, sorry, I don't like giving predictions.
It's fine. It's what you think. It's your opinion. Again, that's the main thing.
Between 120 and 150k, I can see us maybe not topping out, but I can see us probably having quite a large retracement from there, back down. Whether or not we can sustain that momentum to continue going up once we hit that level, I honestly don't know, because I do think there'll be some big players that will want to sell at that level, and there'll be a lot of people that will be happy with the gains they've got. So there's a lot of people that obviously that are in a lot of profit now, so therefore people were expecting it at 100k. They were expecting a massive price drop back down to 50-60k once we hit 100k. But again, it all depends on where structure intact, whether or not levels are going to hold. But yeah, I do agree with you. Obviously, I don't majorly play with ranges, so like I don't have any predictions.
That's
but
fine,
around 118, 120k, I can see happening. Maybe topping out at around 140, 150k before we see a major retracement.
Yeah, completely agree. And I understand you trade your method obviously trades ranges and existing price action to predict, to orchestrate, where realistic support resistance should be. I completely fine with that. Yeah, I mean, obviously mine are there's maybe not as many kind of strategies which have ranges which are very set in stone like this. So I understand it's hard. I mean, again, I'm not saying what I'm saying is going to be really correct. I could be completely wrong. And the main point I like to make during my streams is that it's opinion based. So it doesn't matter. Whatever you say, again, it's opinion. As long as people are aware this is our opinions and we're just talking about the charts in in our own fashion, and we're just giving opinions, then it's whatever you think realistically. But yeah, I mean, I think again we obviously have matching pretty similar predictions, and I think even if I didn't have any ranges, 150k is definitely there's different ways of thinking about psychological levels, if you will, and there's obviously 99 to 100k. Like 100k is going to be a massive one, and obviously we've already seen that nearing. I've obviously got an equilibrium at 100-ish k, so that for me anyway in my method makes sense. But yeah, psychologically, not only that, but I think 50k's are going to be big. So like 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150. So if you look at it on that split side of things, I think going up in fractions of whatever, so maybe 100k, 125k, 150k, 175k. So I think even though mine are based on lines or just magical little lines on the screen, I think there's a way of thinking about it without having to have a method like that, which is logical, potential logical psychological areas where people are probably going to think these are important areas. As it self-fulfilling prophecy. If everyone kind of thinks this idea, then it probably will happen. Where 125k, it sounds like a very important price, as it's like it goes up in quarters, if you will, or if it goes up in halves. 150k is very important. But yeah, again, it's all opinion, and it doesn't. Again, I only look at the higher time frames very occasionally on the streams. I don't like to look at them too often because there's not that much development. If I'm looking at the weekly or the monthly, there's not really that much I can say. Every two streams. So yeah, again, the majority of what I've just said, I've said. I said it since December. I'm saying a lot of these prices. But yeah, again, it's opinion. But thank you for sharing anyway. But I'm looking at the live. Yeah, go on.
What do you think about the people stating like $1 million per Bitcoin? What
do you think about that? You know what? I heard one today. Even it was like 600k. I don't know. I can't remember who said it. I can't remember. But yeah, I don't think that is. I think that's there for, because again, a lot of people saying this. Again, obviously, there's influencers probably saying this as well. But I think a lot of time you hear about this, it's from like institutional people. It's not really from like a crypto person. Or obviously, like if it's like Michael Saylor, obviously that's a crypto person. He's saying 600k or whatever. But I think a lot of it is coming from people who aren't necessarily solely crypto based on, and I think it's there to hype up crypto, and it's there to kind of push people into going, oh my god, this is going to 600k because this really big professional is saying so. I'm going to buy it, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to wait till we hit 600k, and by the time we're not even anywhere near 600k, everyone's selling, and then there you go. So I think there's a a layer of hype towards, or I don't know what the exact phrasing of this is, but in terms of there's definitely a feeling of they're just trying to say this so that they get people into crypto, so that more people hold as we go up and up and up, and then it's easier to sell or whatever. You know, I don't think it's there with true intention. I don't know if it's 600k. I personally, there's so many other places I could see us hit before 600k, which I would be more than happy to hit as a high, because there's just so much above us before we hit 600k. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think though? Do you have a similar opinion?
$1 million. I don't know if that will come in my lifetime, but as again, there's going to be so many institutional players, and there's going to be so many people that have held it. Like if you brought Bitcoin at 50k and then you're able to sell at 500k, more likely you're going to sell. That's a very, very nice profit.
Yeah.
So again, whether or not we can, maybe see a wick to that one day, but again, it's all speculation, isn't it? And sometimes it's just clickbait for people to be able to read your article or so forth. So
exactly.
Just again. I don't know what you could have a longer term strategy where you're holding it and then passing it down to the family.
That's true. A generational trade, that could be a cool thing. Generational trade would be pretty cool. Yeah.
I do know a few people that are doing that, like that hold.
That's fair.
Continue to buy, and then that's being passed down to their children and so forth. So it is a good way of doing it, but obviously it's all speculation. By the time you pass it down, we could have, be back down to 50k.
Exactly.
When you first started buying. So
exactly. Yeah, and it's again. I talked to Mike about this in terms of, I think there's a theoretical is, I think there's going to be a cascading amount of people selling every bull run, because obviously people probably sell every bull run. People might sell every 2 bull runs, or 3 or 4. I think as we go up, I think there's more people obviously more people in the market means, obviously everything's relative, to be fair, but as there's more people getting in, I think there's more. I think as we go along, I'm trying to word this properly. As we go along each bull run, I think there's probably more people to sell as we see, more bull runs. 'Cause I'm sure there's people who've held for 2 bull runs and then want to sell, next. So I agree with that. I think there's quite a lot of people holding on for a few bull runs, definitely. I think if you're slightly involved in crypto and you know the general kind of runs, and obviously if you're someone who does TA and you try to find the most precise top, it's a lot easier to sell as we're going up, or sell as we should suspect to be at the top, and then buy on the way down, rather than trying to catch the top or trying to catch the bottom. So I think obviously if it was me, I'd rather trade every bull run and then keep it going like that, because every bull run's it's a long time in between each bull run, so, or a long setup, if you will. So it's not as involved as trading every day and every minute, but I can completely agree with the idea of buying Bitcoin, holding it, and then passing it on and then selling it. Again, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of people who don't immediately sell their Bitcoin. I think the majority of these people who are saying these prices, I think they're just trying to get people back into the market and expecting these sorts of prices, and they're going to be fallen very, very short. And I think there's no repercussion for these sorts of people to be saying these prices, because by the time we reach these prices, people have forgotten what they've even said, because it's that far in the future. I think personally, or to be fair, a lot of them try and match by the end of the year with their kind of statement. So I suppose it isn't that far away, but by the time we hit any of these prices, I think there's too much time in between them saying it and it happening that people won't really care anymore. So I think a lot of these people, they can say what they want and they'll get away with it and no one will care. But in the moment, people are like, oh my god, let's buy Bitcoin because of 600k. But yeah, I don't really agree with it too much. I think there's no repercussion behind them saying it. So I think they'll say what they want. But opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think long term, I don't see 1 million at all. In any regard of before we see 100 mil or 1 mil, sorry, you guys will have forgotten about this stream and you would have forgotten about a lot of things. So I don't even think we should think about 1 mil. Before we even see 110k, we need to get there first. So I think it's good to see these prices, but I think taking it a step at a time is probably more logical in my opinion. Exactly. So again, I think, I mean, we've an hour and 7 minutes of streaming, had about 10-minute intros. We've done pretty much an hour, so we've actually hit it pretty much solid on the head. We've reaching the end of the stream with just Bitcoin. So I think this has been a really good stream. And again, thank you for being on the stream and sharing your chart and your wisdom with the people watching the stream. So again, thank you very much for being here. And hopefully you guys watching have actually enjoyed this. I think you guys have. And thank you for asking questions and talking and being part of the stream as well. So appreciate you all for being here. You know, Kishan, Mags, Danny, I think has joined as of late, and then everyone in the chat as a whole. Appreciate you all for being here. And that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else to say? The last stuff or anything you want people to, take away from the stream or whatever?
I don't want to give no financial advice.
Yeah, that's my opinion. It's all opinion. You can say whatever, as long as you say it's your opinion. There you go.
Don't panic. Read your plan. Manage risk properly. And yeah, if you're buying for the long term, then yeah, just continue buying, because there's so many people that just look at it as in a dollar based. I think you were talking about this earlier in your live stream, whereas just instead of looking at it as satoshis, trying to collect as many satoshis as you can, rather than just trying to buy $10, $20. That doesn't get me on. Just look at it as in satoshis, and it do you so much better, because
exactly. No, 100%, because yeah, go on.
I'll just see Kishan there say that he's going to hold for at least 3 years more. And that's the way to do it,
Yeah.
So
yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah, I think because if you buy $10 and then it goes down a bit, and then all of a sudden you're worth $7, you're going to be really disheartened. Obviously, if you're putting in $10, it might hurt to see, I've lost this much. Or obviously maybe not $7, because again that's quite drastic. But if you see the value going down, and I think like you just said with buying Satoshi and focusing on Satoshis, that is. You need to, if you're not going to treat this as trading it and actively being involved in the charts, and you're just buying it to hold, why are you thinking about what happens in a week and what happens to the price in a week, when if you're buying it just to hold it, you're not even going to be thinking about in 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, whatever. So I completely agree with the idea of thinking about it as a collection of Satoshis and that value of how much you hold, rather than the value of dollars. Because again, regardless of whatever happens right now, what happens in a week or two, the price is going to go up, and the price will go up. There's so many different parts of what's happening to crypto and Bitcoin specifically, which is just a direct input on the price going up. Obviously, government's buying Bitcoin. I don't know if it's a day or week or month. I don't know what the status is, but I know it's like a lot of Bitcoin's being bought. Obviously, ETFs. All this helps towards the direct input of value to Bitcoin. And there's just this. Unless something really bad, catastrophic happens, the price will go up. At the end of the day, and once we see the highs, they will be a lot higher than where we are right now. So I completely agree. Hold. Just if you're buying to hold, there's no point worrying right now. Just hold. Just keep going. Don't worry. Yeah, good luck to the moon. But yeah, anyway, thank you for being on the stream. Thank you guys for joining. I think this has been a good stream. And I definitely think we should do another one. Another again. If you guys have enjoyed, I think I see some people. I think Kishan and Mags, you guys were saying you appreciate the discussion. So I'm glad you guys have discussed, because again, this is the first time I've done this stream, and I think the first time KB's done a discussive stream of charts. But I think it's turned out really good. It was smooth, and I think it's hopefully been really good content for you guys, and I think it's been enjoyable. So again, appreciate you all, not only KB, but people being on the stream as well, for being a part of it. So, yes, thank you to you all. And obviously you said, your part, and thank you. We'll be back. It's Friday today. I'll be back on Monday. I don't know when we're doing our next Wednesday stream with the game. It's been a while since I've done the game. I fixed it just before we kind of had an issue with streaming. So I would like to do one of those soon to actually be able to play it, and it has fixed this time. I do promise you guys that. But yeah, I'll be back on Monday for another stream. See what we're doing over the weekend. Hopefully we'll cover during the weekend, and we'll see some good prices by Monday. So yeah, but again, don't worry guys, we've got this. Just keep holding, keep going. And yeah, that's it from me. If you want to say goodbye, or I know I've already asked you if you want to say anything else, but if you want to say anyone to the people watching.
Cheers for watching. Cheers for coming along. And yeah, hopefully I look forward to doing some more streams with you.
That'd be nice,
do some more charts. Don't necessarily have to be Bitcoin if you want to ask or post in the Telegram, whatever, we can do it or whatever.
But yeah, completely agree. That'd be good. Yeah, well, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you all. See you guys Monday. See you guys Telegram. And yeah, goodbye.